Have you ever noticed how the moment someone attacks you, criticizes you, or accuses you of something, there's this instant fire that ignites in your chest? This urgent need to correct them, to set the record straight, to defend yourself. Like if you don't respond immediately, their false version of you will somehow become true. I spent 40 years of my life in that fire, burning, defending, explaining, justifying. Someone would write something about me, say something untrue, paint me in a light that felt completely wrong, and I'd be consumed with this need to correct it. To defend Jim Carrey, to protect the image, to make sure people knew the real story. And you know what I discovered after 4 decades of defending myself? The more you defend, the more you need defending. It's a war that never ends because you're fighting against something that doesn't actually exist. Here's what most people don't understand. When someone attacks you, they're not attacking you. They can't, because they don't know you. They know a version of you, a projection, a character they've created in their mind based on limited information, their own wounds, their own filters, their own story. And that character, that version they're attacking, it's not you. It never was you. It's a ghost, a shadow, a fiction. Think about it like this. Imagine you're the ocean. Vast, deep, infinite, and someone throws a stone at the surface, creating ripples, disturbing the water. Do you think the ocean stops and says, "How dare you throw that stone at me? Don't you know who I am? Let me explain myself to you"? No. The ocean just absorbs the stone. The ripples spread and fade. The surface returns to stillness. The ocean remains the ocean, completely untouched by the stone. But we don't live like the ocean. We live like the stone. Small, hard, defensive. We think we're this solid thing that can be damaged, diminished, destroyed by someone's words, someone's opinion, someone's attack. And so we defend. We protect. We fight back, not realizing that in the fighting, in the defending, we're actually making the attack real. We're giving it power. We're agreeing that yes, there is something here that can be threatened. When you defend yourself, you're operating from a fundamental belief. I am this character, this identity, this person with this history, this reputation, this image. And that person can be harmed by what others think or say. But what if that belief is the problem? What if that person, that character you're so desperately defending, is just a story, a collection of thoughts, memories, beliefs, and narratives that you've mistaken for what you actually are? The moment you realize you're not the character, defending becomes absurd. It's like watching an actor get upset because someone criticized the role they played. The actor knows they're not the character. They put on the costume, played the part, and when it's over, they take off the costume and go home. The criticism of the character has nothing to do with who they actually are. But most people are so identified with their character, they've forgotten their acting. They think the role is their reality. Here's what happens when you defend yourself. You reinforce the very identity you're defending. Every time you explain yourself, justify yourself, prove yourself, you're saying to the universe, this is who I am. This character is real. This story is true. And it needs protecting. You're pouring concrete around the prison of identity, making the walls thicker, the bars stronger, the cells smaller. And here's the tragedy. The person attacking you doesn't care about your defense. They're not looking for truth. They're not interested in understanding. They're operating from their own pain, their own programming, their own need to make someone else wrong so they can feel right. Your defense, your explanation, your justification, it just gives them more ammunition, more material to work with, more fuel for their narrative. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. You think you're solving the problem, but you're actually feeding it. The more you engage, the more power you give to the attack. The more real you make it, the more you validate that yes, this is important, this matters, this can hurt me. But what if you just didn't defend? What if someone said something completely wrong about you, something that painted you in the worst possible light, and you just let it be? What if you didn't correct them, didn't explain, didn't justify, didn't engage at all? At first, this feels impossible. The mind screams, but they're wrong. People will believe them. My reputation will be damaged. I have to set the record straight. And underneath all those thoughts is the real fear. If I don't defend myself, I'll cease to exist. The version of me that I've worked so hard to create and maintain will disappear. And that's exactly right. That version will disappear. But here's the secret. That version was never real in the first place. It was always just a story, a character, a mask. And every time you defended it, you are defending a ghost, fighting for a fiction, protecting a dream. The spiritually awake person understands something profound. There is no self to defend, not in the way we think. Yes, there's a body, Yes, there's a personality, a history, a set of characteristics, but those things are not what you are. They're what you're temporarily appearing as, like waves on the ocean. The wave has a shape, a form, a momentary existence, but it's not separate from the ocean. It is the ocean temporarily taking the form of a wave. When you're identified with the wave, defending seems crucial. This wave is me. It's my identity. It's what makes me different from all the other waves. And if someone criticizes this wave, if someone says this wave is too small or too big or the wrong shape, there's immediate defense. Immediate need to prove them wrong. But when you recognize yourself as the ocean, the whole game changes. Someone criticizes the wave. The ocean doesn't care. The wave is just a temporary form. It'll rise and fall and disappear, and new waves will come. The ocean remains, untouched, unchanged, completely indifferent to opinions about individual waves. This isn't about becoming passive or allowing people to abuse you. This is about seeing clearly. Seeing that most attacks aren't actually about you. They're about the attacker's pain, their fear, their unhealed wounds. Hurt people. And when you're centered in what you actually are, when you're resting in the awareness that's prior to any identity or story, their pain doesn't become your pain. Their attack doesn't land. Because there's nothing there to attack. It's like shooting arrows at empty space. The arrows just pass through. There's no target, no solid thing to hit, just openness, awareness, presence. And in that openness, there's a natural compassion that arises. Not the forced kind, not the I should be compassionate kind, but genuine compassion born from understanding. You see clearly, this person is suffering. This person is lost in their own story. This person is attacking a phantom because they don't know any better. And from that seeing, you might respond or you might not. But if you do respond, it's not from defense, it's from clarity. It's not, I need to prove you wrong to protect myself. It's, here's what's actually true, and you're free to accept it or not. There's no investment in convincing them, no need for them to see your side, no requirement that they change their mind. This is the freedom that comes from not defending. You're no longer enslaved to other people's opinions. You're no longer controlled by their narratives. You're no longer giving away your power to anyone who decides to throw stones at the surface of your ocean. I remember when this really clicked for me. There was this period where the media was having a field day, painting me as crazy, lost, off the deep end. And the old me would have fought back, would have done interviews explaining myself, justifying my journey, defending my choices. But instead, I just watched. I watched the story spin. I watched people project their fears onto me. I watched the character of Jim Carrey get dissected, analyzed, criticized, and I realized, that's not me. That's their story about me, and I don't need to participate in their story. The silence wasn't easy at first. The mind kept screaming, defend yourself, tell them the truth, don't let them think this about you. But underneath that screaming was a deeper knowing, the truth doesn't need defending. The truth is, it exists independent of anyone's opinion about it. The sun doesn't defend its brightness. The ocean doesn't defend its depth. They just are what they are, regardless of what anyone thinks. When you stop defending yourself, you stop giving power to the false. You stop making other people's projections your problem. You stop living in the exhausting world of managing everyone's perception of you. And what emerges is something beautiful, authenticity, real, genuine, undefended authenticity. Because here's what defending does, it makes you perform. Every time you defend yourself, you're performing a version of yourself that you think will be acceptable, believable, likable. You're managing your image, controlling the narrative, playing a character that you hope will win approval, avoid criticism, gain validation. And in all that performing, you lose yourself. You forget what you actually are beneath the performance. But when you stop defending, when you stop trying to control how people see you, you become free to just be. To exist without the constant calculation of, how is this being perceived? What do they think of me? How do I need to adjust to manage their opinion? You are just here, present, real, undefended, and yes, this means some people will misunderstand you. Some people will think false things about you. Some people will create entire narratives about who you are that have nothing to do with reality. And that's okay, because their narrative is theirs. It exists in their mind, in their movie, in their dream, and you don't have to participate in it. Think about all the energy you spent defending yourself over the years, all the mental anguish, all the conversations where you tried to explain yourself, justify yourself, prove yourself. All the sleepless nights replaying arguments, crafting perfect responses, imagining what you should have said. What if all that energy, all that attention, all that life force had been available for something else? For creation, for love, for presence, for actually living instead of constantly defending your right to exist. Not defending doesn't mean you don't speak your truth. It doesn't mean you become silent or passive in the face of injustice. It means you're no longer reactive. You're no longer controlled by the need to be understood, to be right, to be validated. You can speak when speaking serves truth. You can act when action serves love. But you're not speaking or acting from the wounded place of, I must defend myself or I'll cease to exist. Here's another way to understand this. When you defend yourself, you're actually agreeing with the attacker that their opinion matters, that what they think about you has power over your reality. You're giving them authority over your sense of self. You're saying, your perception of me is important enough that I need to change it, correct it, manage it. But when you don't defend, when you simply let them have their opinion, you're operating from sovereignty. You're saying, you're free to think whatever you want about me. Your thoughts about me don't determine what I am. Your story about me is yours to keep. I don't need to control it or change it or participate in it. This is true power, not the power of winning arguments, the power of being unmoved by them. The Tao Te Ching says it perfectly. Because he has no personal interests, he can achieve personal fulfillment. When you're not defending a personal self, when you're not protecting a separate identity, you paradoxically become whole, complete, fulfilled. Not because you've built an impenetrable fortress around yourself, but because you've realized there's nothing that needs protecting. This realization transforms relationships. When you're no longer defending yourself, people can't push your buttons. They can't manipulate you through criticism. They can't control you through disapproval. The whole game of attack and defend, criticize and justify, blame and excuse, it just stops. And in that stopping, real connection becomes possible. Because when you're not defending, you're actually listening, really listening. Not planning your rebuttal, not gathering evidence for your counterargument, not filtering everything through, how does this affect me? How do I defend against this? You're just present with what's being said. And sometimes, in that listening, you might even hear something true, something useful, something that helps you see yourself more clearly. The defended person can't learn. They're too busy protecting what they think they know. But the undefended person is open, teachable, willing to see what they haven't seen before, because they're not invested in being right. They're interested in what's true. And truth can come from anywhere, even from someone who's attacking you. This is why masters throughout history have welcomed criticism, insults, even persecution. Not because they're masochists, but because they understand that all of it is just weather. Clouds passing across the sky. And they are the sky. Vast, open, unchanged by whatever passes through. You are that sky. You've always been that sky. But you've been identifying with the clouds, thinking that every passing thought, every passing opinion, every passing criticism is something that defines you, threatens you, needs to be defended against. And in that identification, you've trapped yourself in an endless battle with the weather. When you stop defending, you remember you're the sky. And the sky doesn't fight with clouds, it doesn't defend itself against storms, it doesn't try to prove to the rain that it's not really there. It just is, vast, open, allowing everything to pass through without resistance. This is the ultimate freedom. The freedom from needing to be understood, the freedom from needing to be right, the freedom from needing to protect an image, maintain a reputation, control a narrative. You're just here, being what you are. And what you are is so much more than any story anyone could tell about you. So much deeper than any criticism could touch. So much vaster than any defense could capture. The person who attacked you, they're seeing a reflection, a projection, a shadow on the wall of their cave. And you, in your defending, have been treating that shadow as if it's you. Fighting for it, protecting it, trying to make sure the shadow is shaped just right. But the shadow is not you. It never was. It's just light and darkness dancing on a wall. What you actually are is the light itself. And light doesn't defend itself. It just shines. It doesn't argue with darkness. It doesn't try to convince darkness that it's wrong. It just shines. And in that shining, darkness disappears. Not through force, not through fighting, but through presence. When you live from this understanding, when you stop defending the false self and rest in what you actually are, life becomes so much simpler. Someone criticizes you, the old mechanism might fire for a moment, that habitual need to defend might arise, but now you recognize it, you see it, and you don't have to obey it. You can just let it pass, like a wave rising and falling, like a cloud drifting across the sky. And in that letting go and that refusal to defend, you discover something profound. You're okay. You've always been okay. Your okayness doesn't depend on anyone's opinion. It doesn't depend on being understood, being right, being validated. It's intrinsic, essential, unchangeable. You are the ocean pretending to be a wave, and the wave can be criticized, attacked, judged all day long. But the ocean remains the ocean, vast, deep, powerful, complete. And when you remember this, when you rest in this, defending becomes as absurd as the ocean defending itself against stones. So let them throw stones. Let them create their stories. Let them paint their pictures of who they think you are. And you just be. Just exist. Just shine. Just flow. Not because you're resigned or defeated, but because you know something they don't. You know that what you are cannot be diminished by opinion, cannot be harmed by criticism, cannot be touched by attack. What you are is prior to all stories, all identities, all characters. What you are is the awareness in which all of it appears and disappears like dreams. And awareness needs no defense. It never has. It never will. It just is. Eternally, perfectly, completely. That's why you should never defend yourself. Not because you're weak, but because you're so much more than anything that could need defending. You're the infinite pretending to be finite, the eternal pretending to be temporary, the whole pretending to be a part. And once you see this, really see it, defending becomes impossible, not difficult. Impossible. Because there's no one there to defend, just this, just presence, and that awareness has never needed defending. It's been here before you were born, it'll be here after you die. It's here now, watching thoughts come and go, watching attacks rise and fall, watching the whole human drama unfold, and it's completely untouched by any of it. That's what you are, and that needs no defense. It never did.